Board of Education Finance Committee, June 12, 2025, at the DESC Conference Room E, remote hybrid conferencing meeting. The meeting will be broadcast by the county channel. To speak during Finance Committee public comments, please sign up using the public comment form. You can find the Board of Education public comment form on your website. HTTPS www.beaufortschools.net/about-us/board-of-ed/public-comments. You will receive a phone call during the public comments where you'll be able to speak and address the committee for a max of 3 minutes on issues within the committee's domain. Forum will be limited to 15 minutes. Citizens desiring to participate in person must fill out a public comment card to be obtained from the board upon arrival. Is there a motion to call to order, approval, call to order, approval of the agenda?
Do we have this?
So moved.
There you go. All right. I second it. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Hay. All right, it passes. Please join us for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Correct. I was waiting for that marine closure.
Every time.
Every time. Statement of meeting notification, Ms. Cushenberry?
Yes.
All right. Public comments? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the May 15, 2025 committee meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Hay. Passes unanimously. And now we have our esteemed finance committee colleagues with the budget.
Yes, sir. So good afternoon. The first item for us is the board monthly budget report. So we provided that report. No significant areas to comment on, just a few minor comments that are of common during this time during the year. Salaries are at 89% expended, which is basically 11 months of the expenditures. One of the larger expenditures are in addition to the salaries and benefits, are the audited services. So we've spent $51,000 about midway during the first page. Spent $51,000, have $12,000 remaining. We did have auditors on site doing early field work of the June 30, 2025 audit. So we should be getting a bill very shortly, probably for another $5,000 to $7,000 at least remaining this year. Everything else will fall into the next fiscal year's budget. Legal services of $30,000. We still have we've expended $39,000 there, so underspent that category. So that is good.
I just received the invoice for broadcasting is 45,000, so it's going to go into accounts payable to be paid.
Okay. Travel is under budget in every of the 3 areas on page 2. So on the far right, we have the budget that has been used are 20%, 75%, and 37% of the travel. That is local, state, and federal. Local, in-state, and out-of-state, respectively. Board member stipends at 44%. So county, did you mention county channel?
Yeah,
We
I just received the invoice and it's going through processing. So it was for 45,000.
Okay, and that will go in the top budget on page 3, technology purchase services. So there is still $70,000 available. So we'll have a $45,000 bill. So that budget will be sufficient to cover that cost. And so again, organization membership and dues, it includes our SCASA membership, which includes our online policy, we call it microscribe. So all of our policies go on that, and they manage the uploading of all policies. So overall, we're at 64% expended with a month remaining. Well, I'll be happy to take any questions or comments on the board's monthly budget report.
You have Elizabeth online and you have Ms. Frazier online
Okay,
and Mr. Smith online.
welcome, Mr. Smith.
I don't have any questions.
Okay. Okay. All right, moving on to the next.
Yes, sir. So the transparency report for April 2025. We have it in electronic copy, and then of course the small print version, which is about all we can do with so much information that we're providing there. So it is 71 pages. We've provided front and back version. Still working on, this was a very busy time of year, so we haven't yet been able to consolidate and do our visuals and dashboard sort of look at transparency like we would have liked to. We're going to need some more time to work on that. We are just trying to keep our head above water with all the normal requirements and all the presentations and the meetings that we've had last couple of months. So that will be to come. Haven't forgotten about it. We will, and still plan to bring something that is very appealing visually and more concise, able to review for the board. So I'll be happy to take any questions on the transparency report. And if you have any.
Ms. Hay?
I do not. Thank you.
Okay, I have some, I'll reserve mine, bear mine. Colonel Guy? Mr. Smith? Ms. Frazier?
No questions.
Okay. Oh.
I'm good, thanks.
You could.
I could be a little more offensive if you like.
Oh, you could. Okay, so anyone else have any comments? Okay, I went through my copy in detail yesterday, and one of the things as you go forward with this new format that you're going to use, would it be possible to sort of just take, as you already do on one of these other reports, but for example, certain areas that can be subbed up, and so we can see where they are versus budget. And then, of course, I think you already are working on, just like the HR report, where now we have year over year over year, not asking for year over year, but just to highlight versus is negative versus variance. I think the two have already been working on that, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. So when you say areas, do you mean like industrial areas, like
Subject areas,
construction,
yeah, construction.
technology, financial, board, or something like that? So, okay.
What sort of piqued my interest was looking at how there's so much variation between schools. So I looked at them by high school, middle school, and elementary school. And I was thinking that maybe if there's something that's happening at one that they are consistently under, what budget is, maybe they found something really amazing to this, and we can help share that. That makes sense.
For clarification, I have a quick question. When you talk by group and you talked about location, would that be more program based or object code based on grouping? I'm thinking program by the way that it's spoken, or maybe kind of pivot table-ish where you can organize by location, by program, by object code, which I've been brainstorming for the whole week. So
Right. Program would be, I think, the areas that the certain areas that he was referring to. So that and the budget, the quarterly financial report does some of that, but these are provided monthly. So perhaps a summary by program, one pager of certain areas. The problem is these include all funding sources, so we'd have to break it up between the general fund functions and then capital functions, which are all going to be in one program category. But then they have, we have about 100 different funds overall, most of which are special revenue, which could lapse. So we'll think about that. Maybe we'll start small and then we can always expand to it or something, but we can brainstorm and get the team together and figure out what might be relate to what you're referring to.
Yeah, and if it can be programmed, so it's automatic and there's no additional significant human.
Mhm.
That would be-
Yeah, we use pivot tables a lot, so we can export it into Excel. Our Munis is perfectly capable of exporting all the data into Excel for every single fund. Then we can extract it, we can summarize it by different segments of the account number, and then we can do pivot tables to summarize it even further. Then we can use that perhaps even to do a graphic of some kind. So, or a table that looks more appealing. So we'll try to figure out what we can come up with.
Not looking for incremental work yes.
Right.
It can be programmed, citizens hourly, show. So, is that fair?
Yes.
Make a suggestion.
Mhm.
One of the things that I, going through this many years of doing this, is it's very helpful if you could break it up by school. And by major categories in school, for example, utilities for the school, purchases from Walmart, from online, Amazon, that type
Incidental
of thing.
expenses, that kind of stuff.
What that shows you very quickly is the spending by school. And if there was always, whenever I had a question, it was strictly in those areas. It was in the areas of what they were spending, whether they were spending for an elementary school way out of tolerance from another elementary school. That I would say, why? Or their utilities was another one that I found when I could find in the utilities, why did this school spend so much on water? Well, found out there was a break. Okay. And then, that went to the operations committee. What's going on in fixing that water break? So by schools, if you could package that a little bit by moving that data into that area, I think that would be
Exactly. In perfect sense.
it's just something that you could see and feel and touch. And that's also something that, I could say to a principal, why are you spending so much?
I think our budget department does a lot of that with they have I'm not sure if it's quarterly or monthly, but they have a meeting with the principals
Yeah.
at each school and give them an opportunity to come in and talk about their variances. So it's just not something that we package and report. It is something that we address, in my opinion.
Yeah, and there's some timing issues as well, with payments, that may affect one school and not another.
Yes.
Maybe a different, like, for example, Cameron Electric Co-op serves utilities on the other side of the Broad, and then SDNG on this side. So that may, things may be different, or construction, for example, might be heavy at certain schools, but not at others. So, and then also there are sometimes a budget is, an expenditure is made in one budget and they're awaiting a transfer from another budget. So there may be a variance for a moment, depending on the timing of getting that budget transfer done, because ISD might be reimbursing some CTE costs of materials or, steel or something that they're purchasing at a school and they're waiting on a transfer
Yeah,
from
right.
a certain department. So there are going to be variances that don't make a lot of
Right.
sense at month end because they cross over. months.
See, that fields this for the year.
Yeah.
If that could field this by the month, it might be able to answer some, you see, I mark it up.
Mhm.
When I go to the different principals of my district, I say, well, what did you spend services and supplies and other, tell me about that. Because look at your way out of tolerance with the other folks. What are you doing? Are you doing something cool with that, or is this an aberration or that type of thing? But that's kind of what a business looks at. And I look at school as kind of like a plant. If I'm a Ford Motor Company, I look at my plants and what they're producing.
I think Ford Motor Company is gonna have a lot more staff than we will.
It's like for you all to build an algorithmic data so that it fills it for you. And say, this is what I need to the system. So that you don't do this nut work.
Right.
You know, you've got the numbers. You know where they go. It's just a matter of a relational database set up to be able to fill that for you. So you just, this is my report, push a button. Yep. Out it goes.
Our system does produce the report now. Unfortunately, our system doesn't have the capability to produce. We have to write the script for every report that we produce. And with the, and I'm all about providing data and transparency. I think it's wonderful. It really boosts the procurement and really shows what we're doing here in the school district. I love that. I'm thinking for this, that in order to serve everybody's needs and request for what we have, it would be better off as an interactive tool instead of producing multiple reports. You may want a different report. So if we can build something in Excel that we can then produce that they can't change cells, but all they can do is just push buttons to get different results. I think that is a lot more feasible from my staffing point, what we can do. But I'll talk offline with you guys about that.
Yeah.
So.
William, sit here.
Leave Farkey.
No, I'm gonna move over here.
Yes, it's right here.
You sure?
It's a chair right
Okay.
Just to follow up, the colonel started posing questions for over a year.
Yeah.
Right. And so appreciate the fact that you're looking at it. The intent is you want your leadership not to have to go through reading the paper. You want their eyesight like a beam, right? Be targeted to where the problem is and not to accuse people. But to say who's doing it extremely well and how can we help that person in the organization move it and inform others? So it'll be group sharing. So don't want people to think it's a negative. Is that okay? Good point. Anything else? On the budget, on that report?
I do have a question.
Yes.
I was listening to y'all on my way in just now about the point that current guy brought up in it as well as you brought up. But current guy, I thought that we requested that before. Oh,
We do get it, we do get it here at the very end of the year.
uh-huh.
We get that kind of data, but
You went throughout the year.
yeah, this is something that might be monthly or quarterly.
Right.
You know, I don't know. That's really up to
Yeah.
y'all, but this is what's really happy. And I know you do it when you go down and visit Beaufort High School. You can look at this and say, okay, here's where you stand.
Right.
Here's your cost per student. Here's what you get in Title I. Here's your step. All of this is good information.
Right.
For a board member to know about how the school is doing. And if we could get this before the end of the year,
Right.
we could say, you know, tell me how I can help you. There might be something that's going on, that you're spending a lot of money on supply maintenance. What's going on?
Right.
That kind of thing.
Right. And no, I definitely agree with you on that. Also, due to the fact that goes back to those questions you and I talked about in terms of those funds that some of those schools have left over versus some versus the other schools, and also some different things that kids may need in terms of uniforms or different things in terms of needs and versus wants and the school buildings. I do agree with that. I think that's very pivotal. And for when sometimes I go and I sit down and I meet with the principals and I tell them, so that I can be transparent with the community. The community asks me where you're going, what's going on in this building. Help me help you out. Tell them what you tell me what you want to be the spoken word. And when we go over their budget, if I have that, you're right, that different times, and that will help me out to help be able to understand so I can know that when I'm speaking, I'm speaking upon the
Yeah.
correct information and I can let people know better, know, look here, here's public information if you want to question it. So I think that would be a great tool, another tool to help us navigate through
The conversation was about that and what the colonel is showing, so that it's in the current month.
right.
So that you get that, and anybody who has access can raise it right then. Going through here at my age with glasses and problems, I need a magnifying glass this big, in fact.
Right.
But I went through it yesterday.
Right.
And there were revelations about, wow, this school is here, this one is here, why?
Right.
And so our role is to make sure this school, we transfer the great things they're doing to this one without this one feeling that we're like criticizing you. We're
Right.
trying to help. And that's the
Right.
leader's role, is to try to help.
No, I do it.
Wait. Let me
Okay.
finish, all right?
All right.
So that's what we've already discussed. So what you're requesting, the Colonel has requested, we supported that in the prior conversation. What we're talking about is having that access very granular on the report so we can compare schools. So I think we're saying yes to both of you.
No, I agree with that, but also within you brought up another something else I want to talk about too as well. And that in terms of in terms of teaching, for instance, if we have a building, who may say, for instance, who may not have may have a call for a certain amount of teachers, but don't have that amount of teachers in that building. Then where is that funding at in that building? Will that be on that graph too? Because I think it's important that we start tracking too, because people have asked me. So if we're supposed to, if a building is supposed to have 12 teachers, and you have their salaries that has been allocated for that building, and you don't have those teachers, then what within the power of the principal, what are they able to do? Because like at St. Helena, for instance, we had some classes this year who had 30 kids in there. That's got off with the kids. The kids told me straight up, hey, look here, we feel like we claustrophobic in our class. So, does the what is that funding is there? Will that principal have the the authority to pull in the part-timer or pull in a different teacher to kind of maybe pull some of those kids out and make sure that they're getting the necessary the necessary tools that they need or the necessary attention that they need to keep moving, because that could be a lot of kids. And right now my community is very angry. So that is something that I would bring, but since we're to a point now where we're kind of partly discussing that, then my question is too, on this way you're predicting it, will we be able to see that on there?
So, yeah, but we need to separate the two. The first is identifying where the problem is and being very formulaic and not accusatory.
Well, why won't say it's a cure? Is it?
William,
Huh?
can you wait?
Okay, but I just don't like the word accusatory, but go ahead.
Okay, but I'm saying we don't want to be accusatory.
Right.
We don't want to be viewed as that. I'm not saying we are. I too have toured St. Helena School.
Right.
Got pictures there.
Right.
I heard the same thing you're hearing.
Right.
So then bringing that back and saying, okay, how can we do it so no one feels like beating on people in the school? They're the frontline soldiers and we got to make sure they feel protected.
Right.
That's all.
Right.
So the first thing in my mind is to get information to the leaders. Everybody around this, the principals, the executive directors, God, everybody. And then let's talk about when we see a deficit, what do we do? And then that's where the authority given or taken comes into play. So give us a little bit of time. That has to be discussed because I saw those same schools. I saw where we're short
Right.
on interventionists there. I heard the whole spiel.
Right.
But wait a minute, the thing about it is, if I had visited, I would not have known. And it's not, I can't hear from you and then run to someone else and say, well, this is a problem. I want to see it myself because at that point, I'm totally convinced that this is an issue. And then that way we don't get it into this and that. That's all.
Right. And I wish that we're saying the same thing, but I'm bringing the point of it, the logic of why I'm asking. When I brought when I said what I said, I'm not accusing them. I'm just bringing the logic of, that's why I'm saying, that's why I just want to be clear, because sometimes people take things,
You're clear.
they put their own spin on it. But that's why I'm bringing I'm going to be requesting the information so that I, as a board member, can better understand, because we have to educate ourselves is how everything works. Because a lot of stuff even I've been on the board about 7 years, going 7 years, I'm still learning things, and there's certain things that they still kind of, I feel that they kind of give to us, and kind of, we have to kind of figure out and learn.
Well, that's why this conversation is taking place today in a private conversation, right? Because we don't mind carrying a hard message.
Right,
That's not an issue.
right.
But we want people to know we're very empathetic and we are trying to help as leaders. That's it. So the authority, all that info, that has to be discussed. We've already had a conversation beginning. Great bringing it up. Any others? Okay, next.
The $100,000 report monthly, we have the detail and consolidated. The consolidated is a 2-page report. So that provides a comparison of the current fiscal year and the prior fiscal year as of the month of April. Also the rationale for major variances and the terms of payment, whether they're monthly, quarterly, and so on. So I see a lot of construction in these reports, and the large variances vary between the projects that are at individual schools, such as Ajax, Charles Perry Partners. Imbicon is one of our major vendors as well. Bud Group is, I believe, a custodial contractor, and then Thompson Turner is another major contractor for the district. So the largest variances are in those categories, I would say. And others could be due to certain timing of payment, maybe the end of the month or the beginning of the month, that sort of thing. Biggest thing to note is Applied Data Technologies. This year we purchased $5 million worth of student laptops. These are, I believe, going to the high schools, either high schools or middle schools. I can't remember which ones, but we did buy these early this year because of potential tariff issues. So they weren't purchased in the same month, most likely a month or two later. Because we do elementary 1 year, middle 1 year, high school 1 year. So we have, like Mr. Chauhan mentioned, that we try to balance out our expenditures from year to year, and we do a refresh cycle. So we're not having $15 million in 1 year and then have to refresh every single computer 3 years from now. So it's too much work on the staff as well. So to re-image the computers and get those ready. So this is the elementary refresh. Okay.
That says something about eating.
Mhm.
I having fund balance.
Mhm.
That was brilliant. I had no idea that Mark did that.
Yes, we have a 5-year or 10-year
Yeah, I
cycle.
know that, but
Mm.
it's the timing was brilliant
Mm-hmm.
because he saw that the tariffs were coming
Oh, yes.
and the price would be going up. Because we had the fund balance available, we could, boom.
Yeah.
Buy it before the tariffs hit.
And it would have been an $800,000 tariff is what the vendor estimated to us. So it was a no-brainer. We had to move on it quickly.
That's,
Both those things.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's great.
Yeah.
that You said that.
Now, it was also mentioned there'd be a 2.5 rebate against those in the board meeting. Did I hear that? That we could spend it, but we would be getting something back.
E-rate.
E-rate.
Is it E-rate or
Okay, so
card?
E-rate does not apply, typically does not apply to this. Typically, I'm going to say, because there have been special programs during COVID that did allow for us to make the purchases of laptops. But the normal E-rate program that we're on now, that the other one expired, only allows for infrastructure. So wireless access points,
Server.
wiring, so things that are invisible to the eye of people using technology, none of the equipment, it's the behind the scenes things. Telecommunications as well. So the lines that give us access to everyone to use the telephone here. Those are the sort of things. So it's more of a wiring and infrastructure kind of support of the technology that does allow a rebate. And PR rebate, I think it's in the 50% of certain projects. We are reimbursed a proportion or a portion of those expenditures, but we have to upfront everything, then make a big, long application, get accepted, and then get reimbursed for that. So I'm not sure about 2.5%. I'd have to ask Joe.
5 million, I thought.
That would be E-rate.
Okay.
Yes, because we do receive about 500,000 in the general fund and usually about 2 million in 8% projects that come back into those projects because we spend the dollars in 8% and get it back into the same 8% accounts, which then we use for lowering these costs when we go out to spend. So if we get $2 million in 8%, we would then offset any technology costs going forward. And we're not restricted by those dollars when we get it back. It's kind of like Medicaid funds.
Yeah.
You spend the dollars, you apply for your claim the reimbursement, and then you have flexibility of what to spend it on. But we do focus it in the area of that it was spent on. So if it's technology, we spend it on technology. If it's nursing and social work areas and Medicaid, we spend it on nurses and social workers, salaries and things like that.
You know, and then we'll go to Mr. Smith. There's nothing wrong with capturing your innovative successes like that
Mhm.
and sharing them in board meetings so that the public knows there are actual things taking place. You know, you don't necessarily know about it, but people who are driving the business, educational system day to day, you folks are taking those things and making good of them. So
Right.
no challenge about saying, hey, we did this, all right.
Yeah, we'll try to, just like with the construction, the board just approved $35 million worth of projects. Well, we're paying 5 million of those with premiums and interest on old 8% funds. So we're able to lower the borrowing by $5 million. So we try to make sure to bring those to light, and I'll try to remember to do that in the future. We're so busy doing it, sometimes we forget to talk about it and brag about it. So we'll try to brag now on.
Well, now, my only question was gonna be, I am aware that, because I have a partner who runs a large IT department. I know that these companies across the board who are selling these laptops and stuff, they are calling and telling people, hey, look, yeah, I know that you're supposed to update next year, but being that the terabyte is gonna go up, so yeah, I might want to go ahead and buy it at this point. And so I know a partner of mine told me that they called him. They gave him an offer, but he negotiated. So I was wondering, did we negotiate that price, or what did that work out? What did that look like?
Applied Data's on state contracting price is already set and the terms have already been negotiated by the state. So negotiation really isn't, I don't want to use the word an option. It's, but they're already set. It's already been procured at the lowest rate for us through the state procurement.
Oh, so even though some of these companies are calling, I know they're calling and saying, hey, look, even like also another partner I know who has a company who sell radios. I know the radio companies that they are calling to saying, hey, look here, and you might want to get so many 20 or 30 or 40 radio and stock up on them before the terabyte go up. And I know that they're negotiating even though they have contracts, they are still negotiating because of the fact that you're getting these in advance versus how you would normally proceed to get them. And so I was just wondering, what does that negotiation look like? Because I think that we have to be real aggressive on how we're spending it, even though it's, sometimes going and buying a truck, it sounds good to get a new truck, but I still want to get more bang for my buck. And if I'm making it convenient for you, then I want it to be convenient for you too as well. So I just want to put that out there. Just FYI.
Yeah, good sharing. And good comment about the size of our purchases gives us buying power that others wouldn't. So,
Right.
Okay, next.
Right.
OE5, Monica.
OE5, yes, sir. So each year we bring forward OE5, the operational expectation for financial planning, which is all about the budget. So this document is just the cover page that's required and an executive summary of the items that are required of OE5 that all relate to the budget. So the first item is that in OE 5.1, it requires that we maintain a fund balance no less than 2 months of next year's budgeted expenditures. So that policy was recently changed. So I provided a graphic here of about 6 years to give committee and the board a visual of where we've come, where we started 5 years ago and where we're going for next year. So we were about in the $47 million fund balance range in FY '21. At the time, that was a 17.5% fund balance, which fell just slightly above the range that was suggested in the old policy. So by bringing us to the new policy, we have now raised that gradually over the last few years to a point where we can sustain the 20% fund balance, which is the ideal place that I believe that will keep us from borrowing a tax anticipation note. So as our budget grows, we have to grow the dollar amount slightly each year, which we intend to do. Again, we will be able to do this year at the end of the fiscal year 25, grow it about 3 million or so to maintain that 20%. And then we have a budget that will, we believe will grow to another amount that will maintain that. So I really believe 20% is the sweet spot for our district and want to keep it there. So that will include just slightly raising that fund balance each year. I believe I noticed that a lot of other municipalities and school districts have fund balances sometimes much larger than this in terms of a percentage. But I think for us, this is a good spot that shows conservative spending, conservative behavior, not a major increases in taxes, but keeps us just in a steady pace. The balance we project is, I think, $72 million would be the fund balance. So it puts us in a position where we could cover expenditures for almost 72 days, I believe, if in case, the operations ceased. And then when we allowed, you think about it in terms of time of year, that might be as well. And then we would need to still pay employees for a certain period of time as the community recovered if there happened to be a major disaster. So that's what those funds are for, to keep us from borrowing the pan and to also help us in terms of major weather events. So again, number 2 just states what I just mentioned, and that fund balance, our policy requires that we don't have a TAN, and we won't have one again this year. So it'll be our 24, 25, 26, it'll be our 3rd consecutive year of not borrowing a TAN. Very excited about that. And it saves us a lot of money. It's $50,000 to $100,000 a year, depending on the interest rates at the time. So it is a very costly endeavor that can save us almost as much as a teacher's salary almost. So annual operating budget was reported to the board on 3 occasions, April 25th, May 6th, and May 20th, where we certified the budget. And it included all of B through H items, which are all included as part of the board policy. We brought together revenues, expenditures, and budget assumptions. Budget assumptions being what was the growth rate and the value of the mill? What did we assume for the next year? What is the value of the mill? What do we anticipate contracts to go up? That sort of thing. So multiple years were reported. So we showed a 5-year comparison in the budget handouts. Many of these are in the budget handouts. We gave the budget reflected the projections from the State House of Representatives or the Senate. This year it was the House. We didn't get Senate numbers or the Conference Committee numbers till well after the budget was on its way or complete. And the changes that we have seen are very minimal, maybe $200,000 of money coming back to the district, very relatively minimal, so no real impact on the budget. Reflects personnel positions. It has a long-term projection, delineates expenditures by site level, and reflects a balanced budget. So we did increase the millage by 4.3 mils to 126. And then we have current reading, or 3rd and final reading on Monday, June 23rd, and we'll wrap up the entire budget at that point. So this requires operational expectations to require a motion to accept and then move on to the full board, since this is a board policy.
Okay, Ms. Gordon or Ms. Hay, would you like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion. Can you tell me what I'm making the motion on?
To accept OE5 financial planning.
Okay, I recommend that, we accept OE5 and take it to the full board.
Do you want it on the consent agenda or a presentation?
What's your preference?
Presentation.
I have a budget
I'll
update on,
second.
so do you want to do it under the budget update, or we can do it in committee and I can provide the update during the committee report?
But what, as long as we're within protocol. What's the requirement?
It's, the committee can put it, the this OE on consent agenda, or you can have it, in open session and discuss and make another presentation. So it's up to you all.
If, let me just throw this out there for the committee members. If I recall, if it's on the consent agenda and someone disagrees, they can remove it. Then it's discussed. So that gives anybody the option to say, yeah, I want to talk further. Well, if everybody, if the other committee members okay, I'd say put it on the consent agenda, then we can see what happens. Is that fair? Any rebuttal or the distance? Everybody okay? You okay, Carl? Or you want to try it different?
Just try it.
Okay, all right.
And there's always an opportunity for a conversation about the budget, because I have an update during superintendent's report. So if they have, that's another opportunity for discussion on that topic if you need it.
Want to avoid the optics that we're trying to have.
Ms. Haynes, you second that?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Thank you.
Okay, properly motion and second, all in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Ms. Hayes? Pass unanimous. Thanks, everybody.
Next item is the bond update. So this wasn't on listed as a future topic, but it was something very important that came up recently. We did sell our first major bond issuance for the 2023 referendum. Previously, we had sold a bond anticipation note with about $50 million just to get us going until the interest rates got better. So this is the first permanent bond, which paid off the $50 million bond. This bond was delivered to the county treasurer. The cash was wired to the treasurer on May 29th. Out of 8 bidders, we have an online bidding process, which I can view and see which banks are bidding. Bank of America won with the bid with a 4.068 true interest cost. That is net, true interest cost is net of premium. So the bond premium is additional cash that goes in. So we got a $3 million bond premium. So 135,200,000 goes into the bank. And we have those funds if available for the board at the board's discretion. Right now, we only have approval for the actual dollar amount of the referendum of what was approved for the projects. So if the projects go over, the board has authority to spend those on that, or we can continue and just we can get bond counsel's advice on how those dollars are spent, and we can make a decision at that point. We'll have 2 more referendum bond issues. Those were scheduled to be in January or so of each of the next 2 years. But as volatile as the bond market is right now, we'll just have to see how that goes. So as long as the cash flow is there for us in the bank, the cash is in the bank, and their intention to spend, or the cash flow analysis we get from the facilities office every couple of months, they update that, and we make sure that we have enough in the bank to cover what they intend to spend over the course of the next several months. So, anyway, just wanted you to update you on that topic. Also, 8% bonds. We just passed you all voted on a Tuesday night for $35 million of 8% bonds. I believe that's for the 2027 projects. Is that right? Lou handles all the details of the budgets and makes sure that they're not spending out of line item, and he makes sure that we all know in the finance office what's going on. Attends all the CLOG committee meetings, all the operations committee meetings, so we know he's our liaison between the two and comes from a construction background, so he's a wealth of knowledge here. So we are intending to fund the $35 million worth of projects with $30 million of a bond issue and $5 million of old 8% funds that we've brought forward that could be used to supplement the costs here. So the Bond counsel is coming on June 24th to the board meeting. On the agenda will be 8% bond resolution for $30 million, and you will be asked to approve that resolution at the next board meeting. And she will explain Miss Franny Heiser will be here and she'll explain all the details of it. I talked to her paralegal today to work out the wording of the court, and we're good to go for that. And one of the questions she asked was, do you intend to spend any of the dollars before the bond is issued in August and need to reimburse? And that answer to that is yes, because the work on this building, the HVAC units that have expired in this building, there are at least two. We know very well in the finance department, that one of them is ours. And that those costs, those units have already been ordered, and they will come out of some of these dollars and they'll need to be reimbursed. And so the language of the bond issue had to be slightly altered to make sure that that is legal with the IRS and everything's on the up and up. So, and the third and final issue on this is refunding. So board policy OE 6.15 that relates to debt and financials requires that the staff seek refinancing of outstanding debt. It is determined that the district benefit from reduced interest expense over the remaining life of the bonds. I must have missed a word in there or something. It doesn't make a lot of sense. What that means is we have to make sure that we're looking at our bonds every year to see if there's any refinancing opportunities, to see if the interest rates are just right, that we could save money and shorten the term of the bonds or pay off bond. So we have one that we're watching, 2015B bond series. However, the market rates are not favorable enough to generate what we have as a threshold of a $1.5 million savings in interest. So it's lower than the savings that is being calculated is less than $1 million. So I made an executive decision to hold off. So it saves us time, it saves us effort on all the work that has to be done to issue a bond, and it actually, and all the payments that have to go out, the work with the county treasurer, and then the journal entries in our system. So, and there was a thought of, do we move the threshold from 1.5 and move it down? I said, no, we want our expectations to be here. Someone decided that, and I think we need to stick with it. So we decided to put off any refinancings on that bond until the market rate gets better. So I think we need to make it well worth our, and I believe that it will improve. We just need to wait and watch it for a little while. Okay.
Last
That's
night,
all I have on that issue.
last night the clock met and who was there, Mr. Day was there. And I didn't know that the bond premium, I'm glad to know now that we've got an extra $3 million. That's good. Just to give you some historical previous bond issues that we had for the 2019 round. We were getting 1% and 2%, and we were getting $9 and $10 bond premium. So now it's down to 3. And I will also tell you that we are not anticipating bond premium in our budget to build all the things in the referendum. That's just extra money in case we have another epidemic or whatever that comes about. Also tell you that they briefed on the cash flow. And the cash flow, first bond premium, we always had a big lag in cash flow between the amount of work done and the amount of money paid. That has really tightened up. So you're going to have to really watch that cash flow because we don't have that slop time like we had last time. The on trades.
As I sat in the parking lot and ate my lunch before this meeting, I talked to Mr. Vargas on the phone. I called him and he said, I had questions about the 8% bond resolution. He said, I need to talk to you about something. Have you issued the bonds yet? I said, yes. I said, it was already delivered in May and I have a bond update coming to the board in about 15 minutes. And I have already emailed this document to
To
Augustine.
Augustine, good.
Who's in Carey employee, and he said he would pass it along to the clock members. So he is going to inform them through an email, and I'll verify that he did that. And he did express the cash flow concerns, just to make sure we're watching it. He said he was getting ready to have an update on it. Mrs. Phillips receives that update and makes sure we're in alignment with the cash that we have in the bank. And then we have to forward that cash flow to the treasurer's office, because they invest our funds.
Exactly.
And they need to know when to move things from an investment account to the
Right.
cash account to make it
Yeah,
more liquid,
right,
to get
right,
ready
right.
payment for large invoices. So it's a lot of people involved, and we're constantly communicating, even just a few minutes ago before the meeting. So we try to make sure we're communicating well, so everything runs smoothly. So
Yes, Mr. Nate?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You mentioned that we're bringing forward $5 million of previous 8% funds.
yes.
Is that a common thing? Because that tells me, especially chairing the operations committee, that we didn't use $5 million of money that we borrowed for capital projects. So is that a common thing?
It was back in previous years. So in I believe it was the 2018 and 2019 funds, 8% funds are the main ones that we had large premiums on back then, prior to around the COVID time, right before COVID. And so we are required by the board policy to bring forward the balances every year, or maybe it's not a policy, but it was an expectation. So every year in the debt day report in March, we post every dollar that has unspent, and the majority of the dollars are not necessarily underspent projects. They're premiums and interest like this, interest on the
Okay.
proceeds that we got extra above and beyond. So the board has discretion about what to do with that. We don't have the authority to spend it because we've already hit the limit. Our limit is the project list, which you approved on the
Right.
total projects. So we haven't had that kind of premium since then, but those were identified, and there were some others that were identified to bring forward. Some of them are reserved for ACE. There was a motion made a year and a half or so ago that we would up to $6.5 million negotiate for items for ACE or capital items. So some of that money is now designated for ACE as well. And I can give a refresher. I think it was in the May or March debt day report I listed in my executive summary, but I can bring that back and we can, discuss and make sure we have a clear understanding of which pots of those older funds are designated for what things. So this will bring it down significantly.
Gotcha. All right.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Does that conclude any
Yes, sir. That-
bond funding? Okay. Moving on to federal funding. Okay.
Miss Matson is unable to be with us today. She wasn't feeling well, so I'm going to cover this. Not a lot of change from the last time. So our Magnet Schools Assistance Program is one particular federal fund, also known as MedTech 7. It's a 5-year grant with a performance period of April of 21 to March of 2026. How the budget is allocated yearly from the federal government. The program office usually receives a grant award notice around April. And as of June 4th, we have not received the notification for the authorization of that 5th year. We have been using carryover, but the carryover has expended as of June 4th. And we covered a summer program to be able to manage that with the general fund this summer, but we are still, waiting on official word for that 5th year of authorization. So we did have some emails going back and forth that it looked like things were a little closer, but we're getting concerned about. So the emails I saw did show positive signs of authorization, but there are full-time employees in those positions, a few. And so we are anxiously awaiting that before school starts, so we have an update on that. So the other item is all other title funds except for Title III. So Title I, II, and IV, we have been provided some preliminary planning amounts for those three titles, and the State Department has yet to allocate them to the school districts. So I went to a State Department, a SCASA meeting last finance roundtable on last Wednesday. The state has received the authorization of Title I and those federal funds, but there were several districts across the state who are losing money. So they were waiting on making individual phone calls to those districts before they allocated to every district. So we are waiting on we're hoping for not having a phone call and just to get an allocation. And so we're waiting on that allocation to be submitted to us. We usually receive the documents in May, the 1st of May. So we're about a little more than a month behind authorized for those title programs, Title I being the largest of those. Title II is professional development. Title IV is support services, some sort of, I can't recall exactly. Mental health fits in that category and some other support services. The State Department did receive, yes, so that last sentence states what I stated, but we are still awaiting Title II allocations. I'm sorry, Title III is multilingual learners. Title II is professional development. So we do get $1 million or $2 million or so in Title II allocations. So we're still awaiting those allocations to make sure that our professional development dollars are covered into the next school year. So as you see, we have some lags, but it appears they're coming in. They're just coming in much slower than normal. So if we feel like we need some additional help, we may need some legislative or political influence to help move things along. We'll certainly reach out to you, and I'll discuss it with Ms. Matson and Dr. Rodriguez if that effort needs to happen.
Okay, so we got a couple of questions, fingers raised. So we'll start with committee members and Mr. Smith is next, and then anyone else is raise your hand. Ms. Wilson, Ms. Wilson.
My question is, how much funding, we talked about allocations, and we're talking about, in line, was it 1, 3, and 4? No, 1, 2, and 4. You could fund them, are we talking about? And if we do not get funding, how would that impact our schools and our district?
I don't know the exact dollars right off the top of my head, and it would take me too long to pull up our federal fund sheet. I want to say Title I is in the $5 million range. That does have a number of employees in it, including we had a pre-K set aside, so we had a lot of pre-K teachers in there, and supplemental like class size reduction teachers in there as well. So we use that for that purpose. Title II, I don't know the exact dollar amount. I would guess somewhere in the $1 million to $2 million range for Title II. That is used for professional development. That does not typically have full-time people in it. So it would be a summer institute or professional development the first few days of school, last few days of school, in between the PD days during the middle of the school year would be, and so the others are much smaller pots of money. Title III, we get maybe 200,000 or 300,000. Title IV, I would guess in the same range. So your big ones are Title I for in this category. What would we do if we didn't get it? So one thing we would do, first thing we would do is look at how many full-time staff are in those categories. The second thing we would do is look at the funding that we have available. We set aside out of last year's fund balance, $10 million, moved it into the capital projects fund. The board has a discretion of spending those dollars. I have recommended to hold on those dollars for now until things stabilize for our federal funding for our federal funding, the volatility going on in those programs. So that for me is Plan B, for at least a temporary. It would not be a recurring solution. It would not be a long-term solution. It would be something short-term, and then we'd have to make some hard decisions if for some reason we knew that those were never coming back. Those funds were never coming back. So that's really where we are at the time, but the state did inform us last week that we were getting the Title I dollars. May not be at the same level that we were, but we are receiving them. We just don't know how much yet. So the largest of the dollars, we've been reassured that we are getting them. So that helps settle my nerves.
Ms. Hay? Any comments?
Yes, sir.
questions? You can know.
Not at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Smith?
Um, to bring my memory, did you say that the grant from MedTech 7 was up for questioning right now?
Okay, so we have two MSAP grants. One was authorized 4 years ago. And it is the 5th year of that grant for the north of the county schools that has not been yet authorized. The new MedTech or MSAP grant for the southern side of the county has been authorized because that is a brand new grant. So it's the 5th year of the grant that was started in 2021. Yes, sir. That one we haven't received authorization yet, but we have some emails kind of with some encouraging news, but not a definitive answer whether we're getting it or not.
That will be very concerning because MedTech does an awful lot within this district. And also, so that, and that's why I want to be careful about how we support other entities that come this way, because I remember at some point in time, I know, and let me understand this also, who is MedTech 7? Who is, can you tell us about who is MedTech 7 in terms, who is MedTech 7?
I don't understand your question.
When you said MedTech 7, is MedTech 7 a corporation? Is MedTech 7 a person that is a part of a hospital? Like, what entity does MedTech 7, who do they represent? Where's their office at? Like, what's the mission of MedTech 7?
Isn't it a program that's pretty widely distributed?
Yes.
Private company funded by the federal.
And so it's been sufficient, to your point, question, to actually receive federal funding in a wide area from my understanding.
They're not federal employees.
No, they're district employees.
But
And we pay for the marketing materials, the instructional materials, the everything that's purchased for the program, the equipment that they purchase to do
Whole labs. create whole
labs, they outfit labs of school. So we don't pay a company, an individual company for all those things. We pay all the expenses, and they all fall under federal procurement guidelines as well, which are, we have to get bids on them if they're over $10,000, which is a much lower threshold than our normal procurement threshold. So,
Man, I need that business model.
Yeah. Well,
Show up and have everybody put those paper what I'm supposed to do. That's okay.
yeah. And the reason why I'm asking that, because a lot of people have asked me, who exactly is MedTech? And where is MedTech located, in terms of sponsorship or different things, or, because they see MedTech put up all these billboards throughout the county. So a lot of people has been trying to have, I've been to a couple of community meetings, and people have asked me, well, Mrs. Smith, who exactly is MedTech? What is that through Beaufort Memorial Hospital? Is that through the other hospital? And I tell them, I'm not really sure, and I've stated it for a while now now that we're on it and hear this, and to know that people have really been, and I know a couple of our schools that are really engulfed in the MedTech setup. So this is kind of concerning, and now this has piqued my interest, who, where, what, when, why, and how, if that could be brought to us. I won't burden you with that today, but when you're in your presentation at the board meeting, I'll tell you now that I will
I am not,
ask you, I will tell you now that I will ask you that at the board meeting, FYI, because, because one, it piques my interest, and two, I think that, this is something that, it has been a question that I've been asked publicly in several outlets, and whoever can tell me, whoever it's Ms. McKenzie or whoever under the superintendent cabinet can tell me at that time, and maybe you can take that back to the superintendent since you're his liaison at this meeting and tell them that that's a question that I do have and can really have, about who is MedTech 7 in, that industry.
it's not a who, it's a curriculum. So it will need to be answered by the curriculum folks, because if you don't have that knowledge, we're here to fund them and make sure they have the materials they need. So I will pass that along to Dr. Stratos.
That
And-
presentation has been made, so we bring it back up for you because academics has presented that. So we can give you that information again.
Okay, well, I mean, and that may have happened, and I appreciate that, but but hearing this, I don't remember it. We're pushed with a lot of information from time to time. That's second nature to staff, and that's why I'm telling you now that so it's not a surprise when I bring it back up because I do want to say the superintendent's liaison to this meeting. So I'm going to ask that question at the actual next board meeting that we have when this information is brought up. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Anybody? Okay, then, if no one else is raising their hand, I have a couple. This MedTech 7, is it included in the $27 billion work that you and the financial group did about what's at risk? How much financial exposure do we have? And
I believe that it's on that list. Yes.
okay,
Yes.
so if it's on the list, then we probably should do the next step of crisis planning. What happens if it goes there? And so that, proactively.
Our staff has been
Not just
actively
Mr.
working with Dr. Stratos and the leader, Ms. Appleby, on the MedTech team. So they're well aware of that. Like I said, he's heard some encouraging news in the last couple of days through emails, but I haven't had an opportunity to sit down with Ms. Matson and go through where we are at yesterday, basically. So we've been working on covering the summer and preparing for what the possibilities of the positions are for next school year. Those are the most critical things because the individual full-time jobs are the first priority for us. So, and we can discuss it at the next meeting and provide an update of what that planning looks like. So I'll incorporate that in my discussion for the next update.
One of the topics that are even higher though is if the funding is cut by north versus south, then we really have an optics problem. They cut the north and they fund the south. So we probably need to generate our legislative response, encouragement early rather than later. So we should synchronize those two things being teed up. So we're not waiting, not reacting. We're saying, hey, here's where we stand. See if this works. Fair enough?
Yes, sir.
Any others? Okay, well done.
All right, last item is SS 42. This is an administrative rule. It does not require board approval, just requires me to bring forward as information. And there are two minor changes. So each year, I am designated as the wellness coordinator for the district, which makes it kind of
Congratulations.
humorous. I believe it's because of the food and nutrition role that I have as well. And Dr. Stratos is named as one of the coordinators as well, but she also has a health advisory committee that she has to run. So I try to do my best to keep this one off of her, but she did attend our last meeting. So it's very helpful for her to see how the two relate. Her health advisory committee is more of a curriculum based, different types of education, nutrition education, and other curriculum items. Mine is more, what is the food policy, smart snacks, and what are our nutritional requirements through the USDA, and also the PE, physical education component. So I have the dietitian from TNG, our food service provider, and the PE coordinator, physical education coordinator, Miss Emily Gray, on my project team, as well as Roberta Green from TNG, who's the operations manager of food nutrition. So we cover all the bases on a project team, and then we have a once a year meeting with members that we're required to do. Now, of all of the things that we do in the school district, I would say this is one of the most highly scrutinized by the State Department of Education. They are on it. And this is why I'm bringing this forward today. They emailed me and said, you must edit your food wellness policy to include, and they specifically told us in section and category 1 here, that we need to move food served but not sold from the last sentence in section 1 to the first sentence in section 5. And that we needed to incorporate a link in the wellness policy, a link directly to the triennial assessment report. So wellness is about monitoring activities and nutrition throughout the school, for every school, every year. And this assessment is, did you do this? Did you have wellness meetings? Did you have physical activity opportunities for staff? Maybe for students, did you know, there's certain things that are required. Did we have a wellness committee meeting this year? Did you have the proper members that are assigned to it? Yes. Did you update your policy? Did you inform the wellness committee of the update your policy? Yes, we did. So all of those things have to be taken care of and in line. And they recently reached out and said we needed to update the policy, and they reminded us that it needed to be done before June 30th. So we met these requirements by updating the policy. It was just updated a year ago. Ms. Cartledge has reviewed the policy as well and made updates to any legal requirements that she has. And just as a note, we did have a wellness committee meeting on April 22nd. A nurse is required, a PE teacher is required, a student, a staff member, a parent, a board member. Ms. Frazier helped us. She had a nutrition component in the work that she's doing. So she was graciously came, I think she left the health advisory committee and came over to the, or an academic committee meeting and came over to the wellness committee. We had 2 members of the Beaufort Memorial Hospital there. And we had a parent from McCracken Middle School. We had a student from River High School, I believe. We asked a couple, but during that time of year is a very busy time for students and staff because of award ceremonies and that sort of thing. So we're going to move it up a little earlier next year. It's not during the budget time either. But we went over these policy changes and we set some goals for the new year. First goal was we want a wellness champion at every single school. And we delivered that message yesterday at the principals meeting I did. And so we want every single school to identify, and we've even asked for a list from every school to identify what person's name and position are. Second goal is that every school will participate in the annual MUSC Boeing Center of Children's Wellness Awards program. So if you do, there's 3 levels of awards, 500, 750, and 1,000. And then there can be a grand prize winner of $2,000. And if you check off certain things that you did during the year for physical activity or for mental health, it could be a sunshade that protects your skin and dermatology standpoint. Having a district dash 5K can earn lots of points for every school. All kinds of things we can do can get points toward those awards. And so we're encouraging, and our goal is for 100% participation in the awards program so that everybody's trying to get that money for free. We just need to make sure they're and I think a lot of you are doing all these activities. You're just not documenting them and then applying for the award. You're already doing them, so might as well get some money for it. So it's a great program. Does make one more thing for them to do at the school level, but it's a good cause with making sure our staff and our students are healthy. So with that, I think that's everything. These tiny 2 minor revisions bring us into compliance with the Department of Ed health and nutrition regulations. And again, it's just for information only.
Well done. Ms. Hay, any comments or guidance, ma'am?
No, sir.
Ms. Gordon?
Just one comment, I have always been in awe of finance. And, it goes way back. And presentations and, especially the fiscal parts of it and explaining to us what we need to know or should know or whatever. So I applaud you and your community. Because I know it's not easy. I'm looking at these little lines and I'm like, Carlton, I can't see them. You know, I know they're here. And it would take me a bit of time to look at. But I do appreciate you looking at making it so much easier for me to read, for us to read. Because we have to have an understanding of the budget, what the lines mean, what our constituents have asked us to do, if we're doing what they asked us to do. And so, you know, I want to say with some fidelity that we are, because of this kind of presentation that you give us. So thank you. Now we'll take this and look at it line by line. It'll take me a few days, but it's here, and there's transparency. So thank you and your team for doing this.
Ms. Frazier, any comments, ma'am?
No, just a huge thank you as well.
Okay, Colonel Guy? Colonel Consigliere?
I just want to say that yesterday, the presentation at the principals meeting was excellent on the nutrition. You had a representative there from MUSC to explain everything. So your students will be much healthier. They will.
Director Yeager?
Good, good.
Maureen?
That's sign language for ninja, by the way. For all you names.
Sensei. Mr. Smith? Good. Ms. Phillips? Mr. Louis? Madam Jumaya? And please welcome her. Want to introduce her?
Taking her run to the office, the new board members. This is Jemiah Johnson. She is our new full-time person working with me in the office. So. Yes, so she's replacing one. She's a new full-time person. We will also have Kaylee Blythe, who's with us. We'll have her as part-time. She'll come back in the end of July when the teachers come back. So we'll have 2 additional people.
Anything
Good for
else?
you.
Yeah.
Welcome, welcome.
Good for you.
Anything else from you?
Our next meeting.
Can I just, one thing? With the uncertainty of the 27 million that you've identified so wonderfully, to actually, as mentioned earlier, go into that crisis planning, at least the worst case scenario, what if it goes to 0? What do we do? How do we disperse the talent to make sure they feel that they're not going to be left out to dry and those types of things? Take your time, you know.
Are you referring to one pod or all the ones we're referring to that we're concerned about? Just these that we're concerned about?
No, just all of them, 27 million.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, all of them, the 27.
All
Okay.
Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
Our next meeting is scheduled for August the 14th at 1:30.
Okay. Any agenda topics? Anyone? Okay, everybody's saying that we're getting close to the 90-minute limit that we have, so unless there's some more things to be said, is there comfort with adjourning by consent? Thank you. Have a good evening. Good day.
Thank you all.
Thank you.